Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the July 18th. And if you have pagers, cell phones, or other similar devices, if you would silence or turn those off now, we would appreciate that. If you are not the applicant and you have come to talk to us about a case today, if you would complete one of these sheets, they're available on the table outside the chambers. We'd be happy to hear you when we hear the case. And with that, the minutes of our June meeting.
I'll move approval.
We can't do anything. We don't have enough people. I wasn't here.
1, 2, 3, 4. You're right. Well, we may try again in a minute. Mike just walked in. Mike, we're adjusting the June minutes, and we have a motion and a second to approve them. What? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes, and the minutes are approved. Continuance request, Russell.
We have quite a few requests for continuance today. An uncontested request for continuance. Item 35 is continued, which is an ordinance change, is continued until August the 8th. Item 36, C6462. Item 37, C6487. Item 38, ABC 781. Item 39, PUD 1501, are continued until August the 8th. Item 40, which is PUD 1492, and item 41, C6454, are continued until September the 12th. Item 42, PUD 1498, and item 43, C6466, are continued until September the 26th. Item 44, C6428, item 45, C6488, item 46, SP459 have all been withdrawn.
Did anyone come today to address us on any of the items that were just read on our agenda, items 35 through 46?
And you had 34 also, which is the ordinance change, right?
That'll be...
It's a new request.
That'll be a new request.
Move the uncontested continuance.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the uncontested continuances. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
And on new requests, it's more likely if you're going to want to be hearing something and be on this list, would be item 10, CE861, item 14, C6490, item 17, PC10342, item 18, C6456, item 21, C6418, will be continued until August the 8th. Item 24, CE835, will be continued until September the 12th. Item 25, SPUD 710, and item 27, C6485, and item 30, ED 202, will be continued until August the 8th. Item 31, PUD 1483, continue until October the 24th. Item 32, PUD 1502, and item 33, PUD 1503, will be continued until August the 8th. And then item 34, which are ordinance amendments, will be continued until September the 12th.
I do have someone signed up on item 33. Is there anyone with respect to the other items read? Roland?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Roland Tague, and I am appearing on item 21, the preliminary plat, C6418. The applicant wishes to continue it to August until August 8th. I'm going to be out of town that day. Can't be here, but more importantly, for the first time, I represent the oil and gas owners, and for the first time, we met with them last week. It's been over a year. We talked about various changes to the plat. There's some proposed wells that would be drilled. There's a discussion of moving them from one place to another. There's a roadway issue, some discussion about moving the roadway over to Blackwelder, which has a substandard bridge on it. There's a lot of issues. Who will pay to move these lines, what it will cost to move them. And I am asking this be continued beyond August the 8th.
Is September 12th, our first meeting in September?
That would be fine for
Adequate?
me. I hope that we can get it done by then.
Dennis?
Dennis Box, I represent the property owner, and even though I'd rather have it heard on the 8th, I think Mr. Tague has every right to be here and should be here, so if his schedule doesn't allow it, we will live by whatever this planning commission does.
So September 12th then, Commissioners. On item 33, our Adcox. Did you wish to say anything, or just you want to let us know you're here? Give us your name, pull that mic down and give us your name and address, please.
Sandra Adcock, and we're right on the line of the proposal. And I would just like to say, how many of you live in a gated community? They want to open up 6th Street as an access, just to consider.
The question is, we're going to hear this in a couple of
Okay.
weeks. So I mean,
But we can make it then.
if you can do that, that's great. We would appreciate it. Thank you for coming today. If you come to the microphone. And give us your name and address,
Bill
please.
Adcock, I'm 11717 North. I'm right there beside the land. I'm the one that's going to be affected the most. Is this contingency, was it asked by the people who applied, or was it asked by the homeowners?
I don't know offhand.
At the applicant.
It was asked,
Applicant?
requested by the applicant, I'm told.
Okay. Because does the planning committee get involved in these things as far as, because they're the ones that wants to change, the people who put the application in, they didn't say anything about access to 6th Street. The planning committee did. Do they usually make recommendations like that outside of the applicant? They think it's important for 6th Street.
You mean the planning staff or the planning commission?
Planning staff is the one that I'm really upset with, because they want to make a residential street attached to a parking lot. And that makes no more sense. I don't know who made that statement or who in the planning committee did, but that street was not meant to connect to that property. It's meant to R1.
Well, staff sometimes does make recommendations for connectivity and safety purposes, but we will take that up and when we hear
Okay,
the
I
case.
just want, like I said, I want to know, because the planning committee is really the one I have that.
You're welcome to talk to J.J. Chambliss, who's our staff person sitting over
Appreciate it. Yeah,
to your left,
So when, after the session?
visit with him
Okay, great.
or with his department. Thank you. Anyone else on any of the cases that were read by Mr. Klaus a moment ago?
Move the continuance is read.
With that one,
With the change.
With the change to September 12th on item
21.
21.
Exactly.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Cast your votes, and the continuances are passed. For those of you who came in most recently, if you have pagers, cell phones, or whatever, if you would silence them, we would appreciate that. Are there any other continuance requests from the public today? Okay, Russell, consent docket.
Hearing none, we have 4 items on the consent docket today. Item 1 is C-6481, item 2, C-6488, item 3, SP-458, and item 4, PUD-SP-1379.
Did anyone come here today to talk to us about any of those items just read, 1 through 4 on our agenda?
Move the consent.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Cast your votes, and they're approved.
On items requiring separate vote, the first item is item 5, SPUD 718. It's an application by Raunak Feeman from On-Go Express to rezone 2410 Northeast 23rd Street from R4 General Residential to SPUD 718 in Ward 7.
Yes, I'm Julie Landis. I represent the applicant. And this was a deferral from the June meeting. And since then, we met with Mr. Williams and Councilman Pettis, and they presented some concerns that they had, and I think we have addressed those. They had asked about the residential neighborhood that was right next door, and we've met with the homeowners association there, and I believe there's somebody here to speak on behalf of them, Mr. Bilberry. And then as well, the Northeast 23rd Street corridor plan that was put in place 5 or 6 years ago, a couple of the things that were brought up in that plan, I think we're addressing with this particular lot. It's a vacant lot now, which was one of the things that was addressed in that plan as a problem. We're taking away a vacant lot with this development. It also said that there was a lack of retail establishments and a lack of food and drink establishments. And while this is a convenience store, it's going to be, they're going to have, food and drink access. It's not going to be a restaurant, but it will have food and drinks available. Pedestrian friendly was another thing that was addressed in that plan. We're going to have sidewalks in front that are, accessible, both ADA accessible and, just general sidewalks. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bilberry is here and signed up, so if he'd like to come forward. Sir, if you would give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is John Bilberry. I live at 2837 Northeast 16th Terrace. I'm with the South Crescent Hills White Orchard Neighborhood Association, and basically we talked to the property owners, and we also I got with my councilman and talked to him about this area. And yes, we would like to. I don't see a problem with having an issue with having that retail outlet right there.
Okay. Thank you. James or Nick, either one?
Yes. First, Mr. Chairman, we did meet with the applicant, and I think she reiterated some of the concerns we had. We were concerned about the traffic. We were concerned about it being located to the neighborhood, the access in and out at the bridge. And then we requested two things, basically, for us to consider, was the support from the neighborhood, which I understand they have support. But then the other thing, we wanted to see what this facility was going to look like, and they would furnish us with some type of definitive drawings or pictures of something that would show us what this would look like. And then my third concern is now with the application, I'm reading it, I would like to, I see all these following uses shall be permitted in this SPUD. I would like to narrow that down to exactly what it's going to be used for, child daycare centers and a number of those items on there. I don't see how it relates to a convenience store. So I would like to make sure that it's only being zoned for the intended use. So if anything happened, it can come back to us and we can look at it in the neighborhood. Then they have straight C3 signs, and that's kind of an issue also.
So what, James, what do you want to do?
I'd like to eliminate those uses, all except convenience, whatever relates to the convenience store. That's one. And two, I still would like to see some type of evidence of what this facility would look like. I think it was, email was to me.
Yes.
I didn't see that. Do you have those
I have
drawings
copies,
with you?
yes.
Can you pass those around, please? Are you agreeable to James' request to eliminate uses?
If he could tell me which one of those he doesn't like. I mean, I know he mentioned the animal sales and the child care, but which other ones would he like?
James, the question is, which other uses are you concerned about?
I'm concerned all of them that don't relate directly to the convenience store. I can just go down this whole list.
Okay, Nick,
Animal
do you have a
sales.
comment?
Mr. Chairman, to kind of echo what James was saying, my concerns about this application were, it's 1.2 acres, it's a very small parcel, and we have an intended use of basically a convenience store gas station.
Right.
And yet we have animal sales, building maintenance services, business support services, child care centers, on and on. On down the quarter of the way down to page 2 of our staff report. If in fact we want a convenience store, gas station, we don't need all those uses. And then my other concern was also the signage. Reading the staff report, it looks like signage as described is fairly wide open, and I was having trouble figuring out exactly what was and what was not allowed from reading this. So those were my two concerns.
Comments, commissioners?
You know, we got
Any other
library
thoughts?
services, medical centers, personal services, and all these type of things. Let's just get with the staff and narrow down to just a convenience store.
Okay, what was the question on the sign?
What is the sign design and how tall is it?
It'll be a monument sign,
Okay.
and it can't be more than 8 feet tall.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a recommendation, we continue this to August so we can work out the signage and also these list of items that would just relate it directly to what they want to use it for. That's a motion.
Well, the
If they agree to
applicant
it.
has to agree to it.
Are you agreeable to wait until August to kind of fine tune this? I don't believe there's any concern about your intended use. The concern is that all these other things are in there, and rather than try to quickly do something today and perhaps miss something, my recommendation would be to continue it to the next meeting.
I guess I don't have a problem with that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to August 18th, I believe. What's the date? 8th, I'm sorry. Cast your votes, and it's continued. Thank you very much.
Item 6, SPD 721, is application by Zach Roach to rezone 18200 North May from PUD 1028 to SPUD 721 in Ward 8.
My name is Ula Marcus, an SMC consulting engineer. I'm here for the applicant. And this area is currently zoned PUD and allows for high-density housing. We want to do a certain area for mini storage. We're asking for this SPUD for a mini storage.
And have you worked with staff on what
Yes.
these are going to look like, and do you have a rendering, or do they meet our recommendations for mini storages?
Yes, it's going to be an upscale mini storage. I don't know if staff has seen the rendering or not. We sent out letters to the neighborhood to let them know what's going on and stuff, and they had some nice renderings in what we're doing. It's supposed to be brick masonry and stuff like that, but I don't know if that was sent to staff or not. Chris Anderson usually does these, and he's on vacation, so I kind of trying to pitch in.
And do you have any rendering?
Yeah, I have a rendering. I have one copy.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, while that's going around, I'll note that staff recommends approval, and I would move for approval based on it looking like the rendering presented.
Second.
So the question is, what we see is what we get?
Yes, sir.
That's what was promised to the neighbors. I would say that's what.
That will be then incorporated in the motion?
Yes.
Okay. With motion and a second to approve item 6, the rendering being what we will get. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7 is PUD 1499, an application by the Carlin Group to rezone 1919 Northwest 142nd Street from PUD 944 to PUD 1499, Ward 8. Is there anybody here on this item?
Move it to the heel of the docket, and we'll see if someone shows up.
Item 8 is PUD 1500, an application by LH&D to rezone 2953 to 3001 Northeast 23rd Street from R1 Single Family to PUD 1500 in Ward 7.
Good afternoon, sir.
Give us your name, please, and your address for the record.
My name is Joseph Timoy Mongusho. Our address is 3001 Northeast 23rd Street. We're filing jointly together with Mr. Freddie Maldonado for LH&D, address 2953 Northeast 23rd.
Thank you.
Our request is that that area had been zoned as R1 residential, but actually about 10 acres of it, there's no buildings used as residential. Most of it we've been using it for our truck repairs and parking. So the other day we were told that this area is listed as residential, but we want applying for it to be changed for commercial for us to use it for truck repair shop and parking.
And are you agreeable to putting the sidewalk along 23rd Street as the staff asks?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioners, no one signed up.
I move approval of application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 8. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Item 9 is C6486. This is a final plat of Mustang Run RV Park in Ward 1.
Jason Spencer with Craft and Toll, 214 East Main, here to represent the applicant. We have an application for a final plat of an approximately 9-acre tract near Mustang Road and I-40. It consists of one lot, 2.5 acres of common area. The property is currently zoned under PUD and is to be developed as an RV park, which is allowed under the current PUD. And because access to the plat is from a private street, we do have to request a variance. The private drive is in place. There is is also located within a recorded private access easement. We do have a specific plan application that is being submitted on this and should be followed up in the next meeting.
Okay, Commissioner, no one has signed up, and we do have a variance to TE3.
I'll move approval of the variance to TE3.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes. That's approved.
And I'll move the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 9. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10 has been continued until August the 8th. Item 11, SPUD 719, application by Juniper Properties to rezone 11804 North I-35 Service Road from PUD 1447 to SPUD 719 in Ward 7.
Hi, Todd Herndon, 7100 North Classen, Juniper Properties.
And tell us what you want to do, please.
We'd like to develop this property at some point, possibly into 2 or 3 5 or 10,000 foot buildings. I think we've given you a photograph of the possibility of what it would be.
James?
I have one question. Under traffic management, so the request has been made to lower the speed limit on the service road, and it said that the traffic commission will consider that in July. Has that taken place?
It took place Monday, as I understand it, and they did reduce the speed limit.
Stewart said that's okay.
Okay. If no protests, I move that we approve the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 11. Cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you.
Item 12 is C-6491. This is a final plat of TGIF storage in Ward 7.
My name is Charlie Allen, Allen Engineering, here to represent the project. This is actually a property that is right behind the previous spud. And as part of that, we asked for the reduction in the speed limit along the frontage road. Received that on Monday. We're working with Todd Herndon on changing the access right now. Right now we have the access on the north portion of the property, and we're looking to move it to the center of the property and provide a little better sight distance. And that's, I guess we're asking for a variance to TE number 3. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no one has signed up, Commissioners.
I move variance on T number 3.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Move the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
Item 13 is C-6482. This is a revised preliminary plat of Thornhill Section 5 in Ward 8.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Dennis Fox. I'm here with Carlos Davila. We would ask your approval on the plat. There are a number of TEs, all of which we can agree to. We want you to note the property to the north, although this map doesn't show it, it's a school, and that's why we would ask for the variance on number 2. We don't believe vehicular access is necessary based on the existing school building. I have handouts if you all want to see it.
Is there a way, Dennis, for pedestrian access if there are children here that attend the school? Can they get through, or do they have to go out onto Pennsylvania?
This is under the plat that you see. The answer would be no. There are other pieces that this developer has developed. So if you went back to the east, there would be a way that they could get up. You can see it in this little area back to the east. But back in here, these will all be lots. So there's really no access point there.
Well, I think we would want some assurance that in this project, we're going to have pedestrian access for children to get to the school without going on Pennsylvania, whether it's this segment or not.
Okay.
We'd like that commitment.
I mean, this is a preliminary, so I can tell the developer that that's going to be part of the requirement in regard to a final plat.
No one has signed up, Commissioners. Questions or action? We have a variance to TE2.
I'd move the variance on TE2. Second.
We have a motion and a second to the variance TE2. Cast your votes. That's approved.
And then I would also move the application, ask Mr. Fox when he comes back, not only perhaps have a connect, as the Chairman mentioned, but also bigger blow-up of the entire area where we can see where there may be other connects also into the school area.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 13. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 14 has been continued. Item 15 is C-6483, a preliminary plat of Timber Creek Estates Phase 4 and 5 in Ward 3.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. There are several T's here. We agreed to 1, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11. On number 2, there are...
Could you go back a little more slowly, Mark, and give me those again? You agree with 1,
1, 5,
5,
7, 8, 10, and 11. My apologies.
only have the other half to talk about.
I'll make them short and sweet.
Okay?
Number 2, is saying that we're requesting a variance, one to the east and one to the 6.5 parcel site to the northwest of us. We're only requesting the variance on the creek crossing to the east to Canyon Creek. We will agree to provide a stub to the 6.5 acre parcel, and we'll do that off of Southwest 26th Terrace, which is the cul-de-sac to the west, which will alleviate TE number 3, which is the variance to the length of the cul-de-sac.
Okay, I do want to talk about TE2 for a minute,
Okay.
Mark, because as I look at the sort of landlocked location we're sitting with here,
Can I go into a little bit of description, maybe answer some questions, or would you like to?
let me just tell you my concern, and then you can figure out how you want to respond to it.
Okay.
As I look at how one would get to, let's say, the southern portion of this tract with an emergency vehicle from Southwest 15th Street, it's quite the winding road. And I'm concerned about how long it would take somebody to get in there. I would suggest possibly, since you're looking at 153 lots, more or less, that if you phase this and when you get to, say, 75 lots, then I would like to see the access to the east. I don't think you can do without it when you fill the whole section. I understand that there's a creek there and that it will require a bridge, but I kind of think public safety trumps the bridge.
Well, I've met with fire, and we originally, just to give you a little bit of history, we originally had one divided access with emergency access off Coles Creek. Met with them, they were fine with that. We had some opposition from the HOA of Timber Creek to that, and they wanted to see 2 entrances. So we went back and revised that to do 2 entrances to the north, one there at Coles Creek and the other one west of that on 24th Terrace, which meets the access regulations for the 153 lots. I did put together an exhibit also showing the location of the fire station, which this is Timber Creek Section 1, Timber Creek Section 2, Timber Creek Section 3, and this would be 4 and 5. This is Canyon Creek Estates. If you look at the red line, based on the current speed limits, the response time is 93 seconds.
Where's the fire station?
The green.
There, okay.
If you look at the blue line, to go to the stoplight, the intersection of Mustang Road and Southwest 15th Street, and you go back and you go through Canyon Creek and were to cross, if that bridge were to be there, then the response time is 115 seconds, which is longer than taking the access through our current addition. This was originally part of Canyon Creek. They didn't, when they showed that across in the preliminary plat, that's the reason that they're looking at selling to Timber Creek. They don't want to cross that creek, and I think there's a representative of the owner to speak to that they don't want that access point. They agreed to get rid of that access point as well. So, and I have a letter from the HOA to the north that they're in support of this as long as we have the 2 access points to the north. That's over, just looking at the preliminary calculations on that, that's over a $300,000 bridge. That's almost a deal killer for it. It's very pricey for a cost that when you have a fire station that close and you have response times like that. But Fire Marshal was fine with it. I met with Commissioner Irwin on it. He seemed to be fine with that, to do away with that and ask for that variance as well.
Okay. Russell, anything on that?
part of the planning department's concern is with connectivity, of course, but with the recent storm events, we're concerned that with such a singular access to such a large number of lots, that if that particular access were to be closed off, you would not get there in 93 seconds. I understand that argument, but that's on a clear day. So keeping the options open is really important for public safety purposes.
I also did another exhibit that shows how many ways there are out of this addition from those two.
Mark, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes, sir.
And get you to back up to your other exhibit, because now I'm confused. The first exhibit you showed us two ways in from the fire, the red line and the blue line, correct?
Showed you the two shortest ways to both ways, yes.
And the longest was 115 seconds.
115
seconds. Okay.
It takes them the same amount of time to get in their truck. I didn't count that time. So.
But that's basically two ways in.
One does not exist.
Not yet.
And the one that...
This is the variance that we're requesting.
I understand that. And that's the $300,000 bridge.
Yes.
Okay. I want to be clear, that was the bridge. Okay, thank you. Now go on with your...
Okay. The other exhibit that I put together was to show that how many possible ways there are out of this addition from the south. Currently, you have 4 exits, one 17th Street to Check Hall, and you have 3 to 15th Street, one along the mobile home park that's along 15th Street, and then you have 2 additional ones that are in Timber Creek Section 1, and I can't count the number of ways that you can make your way through that addition. I could, but these are 4 of the major ways out. Mm-hmm. So I understand, I mean, I hear your concern, but there's many ways into that addition. And this one is going to be the most flooded way. I mean, it's the creek. And that for that $300,000 bridge, that wouldn't even be the cost to span it and not affect the floodplain too. That would cause an adverse effect on the floodplain. To bridge it is more than that.
Okay. Go on with your other TEs.
So by agreeing to the stub to the 6.5 acre site to the north, then TE3 would go away because the cul-de-sac length would not be exceeded at that point. Number 4, we're requesting a TE. That is the requirement for the offset of a street is 110 feet. It's a very minor jog in Coles Creek that you will not see. I mean, it's less than 5 feet. It will look like a straight through street. So it's not a drastic offset. It's the second access on the east side, the Coles Creek there. That's what they're saying doesn't meet the 110-foot offset. It really, it's in alignment, but not perfect alignment. Let's say that.
Okay.
On the 6, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. We are in agreement with 6. I just wanted to say that, just to give you a little explanation, they have had lengthy meetings with the HOA of Timber Creek, and they've shown that by a letter of support. But we do plan to give a lot to the HOA. It's the lot at the northeastern corner of Coles Creek, and we plan to put on commercial-grade playground equipment in that, which will give them access also to the remainder, one access point to the remainder of the common area within the creek area. They also have the option to purchase 2 additional lots if they choose to do so, to add additional common area, and they've agreed to that. There is an existing pool area that's actually in Section 1. They've agreed to put more playground equipment adjacent to that pool, and there is a parking lot adjacent to that. So they are willing to and to provide that letter to time final plat. I just wanted to discuss with y'all that they had met with them and agreed to do those things. The 7, we agreed, 8, we agreed. On 9, I want to agree to that, but with modifications, a minor modification that they said that the common areas at least 10 feet wide must be provided connecting to common areas to Coal Creek Lane, 26 Terrace, and Wayne Cut Avenue. We provide common area access to all points. I just don't want to be required off of Wayne Cut Avenue. And I've talked to staff about that this morning. They didn't have a problem with it. I talked to Ms. Massey. 10 and 11 we agreed with.
Any questions of Mr. Grubb? We have Dennis Tenney signed up. Can you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Dennis Tenney. I live at 11713 Southwest 16th Street, which is in Phase 1 of the Timber Creek Estates, and I'm a member of the HOA board. Just wanted to say that we did have a meeting and discussed a lot of these issues. We were initially opposed to this because there was only one access at the time and there were no amenities provided in the new additions, but since we've met with the builders and had a meeting of the HOA board and several of the HOA members, that we're now in agreement with
thank you.
What they're proposing.
Sir, could I ask you a question? You say you're now in agreement, and I heard Mark say the developers agreed to certain amenities. Obviously, that's a private deal between you guys, not part of our planning process, but is that a written, agreed-to deal, or is it just a verbal?
Yes.
Which one?
I'm sorry?
Is in writing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The reason I raise that point is I have a raging feud going on a plat we approved recently that now the developer has reneged on his deal, and we're going to apparently have 2 separate homeowners associations in the same addition. Big mess. So, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more comment.
Yes.
The Timber Creek HOA has also made the comment that they would rather this be developed as part of their addition than as part of the Canyon Creek addition. So that's another reason to alleviate that connection.
Okay. Any other discussion, commissioners? There are 3 variances.
I'm going to go ahead and recommend approval of the variances. On number 2, we're going to eliminate the interconnection between Canyon Creek and Timber Creek.
Okay, a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE2 as read by Mr. Irwin. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Let's see, then we will eliminate TE3 because of that, right?
Okay.
Okay.
We don't need it.
Okay. So I'll recommend that we eliminate TE3.
Do we need to vote to do that? We don't, do we?
No.
Okay.
And we're also going to, let's see, 4, we're going to have to eliminate number 4, right?
No, we need to approve it.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to approve the variance in number 4, okay, sorry.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve variance to TE4. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
And then on TE number 9, we're going to eliminate the connecting point on Wayne Cut Avenue.
So that's incorporated in a motion to approve item 9?
Right.
Or item 15, I should say?
Yes, yes.
Deleting TE3 and amending TE9.
Right. And approval of the application.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 15 as conditioned. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
Item 16 is C-6484. This is the final plat of Camden Business Park 1 in Ward 8.
Keith Beatty with,
Keith Beatty with Ish and Associates, representing the applicant. We agreed to meet all the TEs and would request your approval.
Oops, no one signed up, Commissioners.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 16. Cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Items 17 and 18 have been continued. Item 19 is C-64, 69, a revised preliminary plat of Council Ridge in Ward 8.
Good afternoon. Steve Rollins, ARC Engineering Consultants, representing the applicant for the preliminary plat of Council Ridge. This is basically the same preliminary plat that was approved back in June of 2006. And we read through the staff report in agreement with all the TEs with the exception of TE number 4. We have met with staff about this TE, and they agree that this can be taken care of in an administrative amendment. And we'd also like to ask for a variance to TE number 2, which is a stub to the west due to the creek, which is immediately to the west of the property. And if there are any other questions or comments, I'd be happy to address those at this time.
Well, my only question is, maybe it's for staff. It said that this was modified to address staff's concerns. Were they reflected in what we just heard? Or are there other modifications that we at least should hear?
If the Commission's in agreement to eliminate the portion of the collector that we talked about, yes, we delete TE4 and then we'd address that in administrative amendment to the PUD.
Okay, so that was the issue that's referred to? Okay, thanks. Okay, Commissioners, no one has signed up?
Well, I would like to know a little more about the variance on TE2, the interconnect. The reason you need that is why?
There's a creek directly to the west of the property. It is about as close as 100 feet from the property line on the northern side of the preliminary plat, and only about 200, 250 on the southern portion of the site, and with floodplain that goes right up close to the boundary line. Likely never be crossed.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other discussion?
Move variance on TE2.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance TE2. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Move the application.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 19. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you. Thank you.
Item 20 is C-6470, which is the final plat of Council Ridge Phase 2, Ward 8.
Steve Rollins, ARC Engineering Consultants, representing the applicant. Again, we have read through the staff report in agreement with all the TEs except for TE number 4, which has to do with the collector street.
Okay. Nick?
And now you're hitting one of those nerves with me about stacking preliminary plats and final plats at the same meeting. I know this has been deferred, but we just heard the preliminary plat with a TE recommendation by staff for a redesign that was explained away, for lack of a better explanation. And now here we are rushing the final plat. Is there a reason we have to hear this plat today?
The only reason it was done that way is because, like I said, the preliminary plat that you see today is basically the same one that was approved back in 2006, and it was already done to the point we didn't realize that the preliminary plat had expired, so it was already done. I did discuss before I did it, but and heard it was not your preference, but
okay, I will submit my raw nerve.
I apologize for that.
For the variance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 20. Cast your votes.
I believe there's a variance.
Is it a variance? Oh, that's right.
I move the variance.
There's not.
Second.
There's not a variance.
It's a delete.
Okay, never mind.
On 20?
It's a
No, move the application.
and delete TE4.
Delete TE4.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 20, deleting T4. Cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you.
Item 21 has been continued. Item 22 is ABC 787, application by Marcelo Baldion for an ABC 2 overlaying R4 general residential at 3100 North Portland Avenue in Ward 1.
Good afternoon. Travis Smith, attorney for the applicant. This is a unit, or it's a pretty large space, at 31 Northwest 31st in Portland at the Bill Rogers Shopping Center. And the applicant is applying for an ABC2 to have a restaurant with the service of alcohol. I have an exhibit I think will be demonstrative and helpful to the council. And I hope everyone can see this, and I want to make it available, but I think it'll be helpful in demonstrating that my client is this unit right here in a pretty decent-sized shopping center, and right now he's being beat out of business by the competition because there are 4 other businesses in this area that have the service of alcohol, and he does not. It's a 10,000 square foot space. It has a full kitchen, has a full dining area, and he doesn't have currently the zoning to serve beverages. There are 2 ABC1s, an ABC2, and an ABC3. So this is not a residential area. This is not an area with churches. So this is an area that's primarily entertainment, and entertainment with restaurants and taverns, places that serve beverages. I have to take issue with a couple of the findings in the staff report. It references that it's a pool hall, and they basically predict that it has no business as a restaurant, and I have to take issue with that. A couple years ago, it was a pool hall, and because it didn't have the service of alcohol, it catered to primarily people under 21 and had some trouble, and that was about 2 tenants ago, 2 businesses ago. There's since been a couple tenants since that pool hall, but they likewise have not been able to compete with the surrounding establishments for that reason, in that people will walk across, they will not across the street, they will walk across the parking lot to another establishment to dine and enjoy their evening. I welcome questions from the board, but I also have photos of the kitchen and of this establishment, if that would aid in demonstrating that it's not a pool hall.
Yep, you can pass those around. Is this an operating business today? Is the restaurant in business now?
It's not presently in business.
And what type of restaurant is this going to be?
I believe general American fare.
And will it have pool tables in it?
Well, presently there are no pool tables because the previous tenant sold them, and so those non-fixtures have been removed from the property.
That was not my question. Will the restaurant, when it's up and operating, have pool tables in it?
I don't have knowledge of that,
Thank you.
what the intentions are. And I believe this one.
This picture of the kitchen, is that all the equipment that's in that kitchen? Microwaves and looks like maybe a...
Well, I believe there's another photo that has a hood in the broiler.
Oh, okay, here's the other picture. Okay, thanks.
And I'd be willing to pass this around if everybody can see it or if it would be helpful or not.
The pictures, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Gentlemen from the police department, are you here to talk about this case or end the next case both, or just the one, 23?
Just the one, sir, if you have questions, we can probably maybe answer those on this property as well.
Okay.
I'd certainly like to. I mean, the history of this area is challenging at best. And I understand, but this is the benefit that it has had in the past is its proximity to the Will Rogers Police Station, frankly, so that the response could be relatively well managed. You know, I can't, it appears that it's somewhat set up with the kitchen. This is a very small picture of a 10,000 square foot space. This looks to be, just looking at it, even a 7,500 square foot space. I've not had an opportunity to speak with the applicant, but our last foray into this particular location was one that we were pretty clear with our denial, and I haven't yet to see anything that's changed my particular outlook on this tract, this property. Your argument about there's other competition with respect of the proximity of other ABC uses just indicates to me that I'm less enthralled about the concentration in this particular location, and adding another 10,000 square feet of that use here, I don't think benefits that area as a general rule.
Well, we have the benefit of having a couple of police officers with us today, so I'd like to take a chance to hear from them.
Sure. Do you know what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you'd give us your name for the record, please.
I'm Lieutenant Doug Kimberlin. I'm with the Vice Enforcement Unit. And one of the things that we're charged with doing is investigating crimes and license violations at places that sell alcohol and low-point beer. The Will Rogers complex right now, as Mr. Smith said, there are 4 places that serve alcohol. The large building that has Center Club in it is one large club. It is very large. It's probably twice the size of the applicant, about 20,000 square feet. We have had some significant calls for service there, with most recently where the licensee would not let the officers inside the bar, and they ended up having a stabbing inside there. There's another small one, Don Quixote's. It's the DCD 54. They've been there about 20 years. The most recent problem we've had with them was the licensee pleading to a commercial gambling issue inside his bar. Other than that, I don't know of any significant police responses. The one that would concern me as investigator is the ABC 1-350, which is McSalty's Pizza. We had some complaints that they were selling beer without a license. Investigated that. In fact, they were selling everything with no licenses, no food licenses, nothing. When I talked to the owner, he said that he was having trouble attracting enough business for his food service, that now he was offering live music and trying to draw people in with live music, which is why he wanted to sell beer. And the reason that is significant is we've seen an increase of businesses that try to hold themselves out as restaurants. And in fact, they are during the day, and then they will move their tables into one room or a back room and then operate as a bar on Friday and Saturday night. The significance for us as law enforcement is when they're designated that type 2 by the Able Commission, they can lock their bar up and stay open indefinitely, which causes issues when they stop selling alcohol or when people tend to linger at those businesses. And what's been happening with the issues at McSalty's Pizza, of course, we can't see into the future, but it would lead me to believe that this restaurant is going to have the same type of issues that they're going to overcome. And the option of trying to operate as a quasi-club after hours or after 10 o'clock or so seems to be a pretty common thread how to get over that right now.
Okay. We have a gentleman named John Silver signed up to speak. We're going to ask him to speak, Counselor, and then we'll let you respond. Mr. Silver, if you give us your name and address for the record, please, and move the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
I'm John Silver, and I've lived at 3620 Northwest 28th for 39 years. So I've seen this place come and go through the years. Lieutenant Kimberlin is exactly correct, and so I won't go back over the police problems we've had. But this appears to be just another bait-and-switch tactic that has happened through the years. When Don Quixote was originally proposed, it was sold as a Mexican restaurant. It was even staged as a Mexican restaurant. We were invited to come see it. It opened as a karaoke bar after it got its license. The property that Lieutenant Kimberlin talked about, the large club there, was originally a skating rink, and they got themselves a beer license for birthday parties. And now we have 3 clubs to operate there. Club Rush frequently opens after midnight. We've had drunk teenagers arrested in our backyard. We've had patrons parking in our front yard. And the police are very familiar with me because I call and sign complaints about the noise. And I lay in bed at night, last Thursday till 2 in the morning, listening to their music. We just feel like this is another opportunity, another way to bring in another club that is not actually a restaurant. It's failed there several times. And the neighborhood is growing. It's improving. Many of the houses on our street have been purchased by working families and are being developed and renewed by their owners rather than just having renters living in them and tearing the neighborhood down. The city has spent millions of dollars upgrading Will Rogers Park, the tennis courts. There's talk of the trails coming down Grand. Variety Care Health Center just built their new offices almost directly across the street. There is actually a very nice apartment complex that immediately adjoins this subject property that is just full of families. And what we ask you to do is to deny this because we do not need more problems in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
A few responsive remarks, and those are just that, as far as Don Quixote, whether they're renewing license or operating with license, I don't really see how that's relevant. In regards to the overall development of the area, I don't know what else you're going to do with the building that big that's equipped for that purpose without significant investment, whether that mean, if you were to use it for anything else, retail space and I know this has come before the board before in other years, I don't know what else you could do with it without just tearing it down. And if you want to find an investor who wants to do that, then I'm sure the landowner would be pleased to talk to that person, but over the last few decades, they haven't found another use for it other than unsuccessfully running as a restaurant/pool hall because it's that big and there's not really, it's that big and the way it's equipped, there's not a lot you can do with it. And without the service of alcohol, it's almost too big to be just a restaurant alone. So it's sort of an economic feasibility argument. It's hard to figure out what to do with this land. Otherwise, it's sort of wasting away. And that would be my response to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, no one else has signed up. Any discussion?
The only thing that I would just like to bring to everyone's attention is that this was heard a couple years ago, and the council denied it for an ABC1, and it did go to court, and the council's decision was upheld. So I don't know if something's changed or whatever, but unless something's drastically changed, this has been heard before.
Right.
Right. Well, this is a 2 now, and I don't think that it's clear from Mr. Silver, from the officer and general observation and knowledge of the area that the trend line is, there's no significant change in the area that causes me to think that ABC2 is a better option than the ABC1 was 2 years ago.
Well, I would also add that while there's probably not significant change, I believe there has been some change in the area, but the change in the area has gone the other way. It's
correct.
The area's gone up,
I do agree with
This is just not an appropriate application.
No, it's not, and I do agree with that the areas, especially, there has been some additional development down Grand Boulevard there away from Will Rogers Park between the subject location moving back toward 23rd. The neighborhoods, which I grew up in, west of Portland, our home sale prices are trending in the right direction, and I think that type of development needs support. This has been a challenging shopping center for a long time, but I don't think adding additional ABC to it helps us. I just don't think it's in conformance with the plan or what we want to do with this particular area. So I'd move denial.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny item 22. Cast your votes. And it is denied.
Item 23 is ABC 788, application by Anthony Smith for an ABC 2 overlaying C3 community commercial at 3715 Spring Lake Drive in Ward 7.
Again, Travis Smith representing the applicant. The applicant is present as well. Tell them.
How y'all doing? Anthony Smith, 3715 Spring Lake Drive, Smitty House of Music.
And what you want to do is an event center, is that correct?
Yes.
And what kind of events do you envision?
Well, I have a lot of...
If you go to the microphone so we can get a record of this, thank you.
I have a lot of events going on. I just put a full-scale hood and kitchen. We got a stove to deep fries and everything. We're going to go with a lot of gourmet food. We're going to try to change the community with the taste and the presentation of how you eat there on that side of town. I want it to be a lot more cleaner than usual. I'm bringing an older crowd out. I'm not really going with a younger crowd. We had a tribute to a Oklahoma musician that actually he's been doing music for 30 years, and his father did it also, and he passed away. And when we did that, all the older people that came out, and they were saying back in 1985 this place was a lot different, and we just trying to get that vibe and bring it back with a lot of soul food, and we got all type of classes and stuff we're going to be doing also. The building is 18,000 square feet. I have a recording studio in there to where we're going to be doing broadcasting and recording, when you do commercials on the radios, we're going to be doing stuff like that. I got a photo studio in there where we're going to be doing a lot of portraits, and I got artists coming from out of town, and we got so much going inside this building. It's really like not being seen because of we not having anything to attract people with, far as something that they'll want to come and see what we got going on. That's why we was wanting to get beer and wine and stuff like that to go with our food and our menu, to make people to where they will be more attracted to come inside the building and see what's going on. We've been open a few months, and people are not attracted to the building yet. And, the music is great, and everybody comes, and, we trying to do a lot of different stuff, as far as getting involved with the community so we can start to give more, because we're going to do September the 7th, we got a back-to-school program we're doing with the bikers. All the bikers is coming out, and they're going to support us getting back-to-school supplies for the kids, for that community. So we just basically, this business is there to uplift the community, give it a new change, a new vibe, and that's what we here for.
I have a few remarks I think that are going to be helpful. If I mentioned the economic feasibility of the last property, this is a much bigger issue. And I know that there are some people here to protest, and I know that Lieutenant Kimberlin is here to give his experience of the property. Before we hear those remarks, I wanted to pass around a couple photos and basically just outline what we're talking about. This is 36th and Kelly. This is an 18,000 square foot building that in 1982 was granted a variance. It was Park Club and Plaza. It was a sort of, not country club, but sort of a more country club type atmosphere, type ballroom. It's huge. You could put on a ball, a gala, and have an event. it has in the last few years, well, from 1982 to basically 2011, it had the equivalent of ABC3 zoning, and it lapsed. So it was grandfathered in and it's lost it. The applicant now, this applicant is now asking to basically restore the zoning it previously had. I want to pass these photos to demonstrate.
Yeah, give them to me, we'll pass them.
Now, you are asking for ABC2, is that correct?
ABC2.
Okay.
This applicant is asking for ABC2. Okay. And I have some photos of the actual kitchen that I think will be helpful. Right. Okay.
Figuring right side up is not easy.
The biggest issue with this building is that it's gigantic. It's 18,000 square feet. It has a very tall cathedral-like ceiling. It has a stage. It has a floor. It has a kitchen. It has a balcony with service up there and a dining area downstairs. Other than a restaurant, an event center, a ballroom, it's very hard to find a use for this building other than that. It's what it's been used for primarily the last 30 years. This building has not had its zoning for close to 2 years now, and it's failed. Every venture, every entrepreneur that has come in has failed because it's too big to really do anything else other than throw events like wedding receptions, events of that sort. I asked the council to really consider what to do with this building other than tear it down and make something else out of it, because any other use is going to require such a significant amount of investment. It's hard to find an investor who's going to want to do that, and no one's going to put $100,000 into this building. You'll just tear it down, and if it's hard to find, and right now the landowner has been unsuccessful finding a seller, finding any type of investor willing to do that. Other than that, if it's sitting empty, then it's going to attract loitering and all the other ills that come with a vacant building in that size, in that sort of area that has that sort of commerce and thoroughfare. I'll open it up to questions from the community and from the board.
Well, we have quite a few people signed up to talk to us. I think, again, we'd like to hear from the police department first and what your experience is at this site.
While he's coming up, Mr. Chairman, I was listening to the applicant's presentation, and it was quite compelling, some of the things they're going to do in this place, most of which would not require the use of any alcohol or ABC. And I haven't heard from the police yet. I do read the newspaper. Now, I am familiar with the area. I believe the fact that alcohol has been served in this location for some time has been a catalyst to the problem. And if this applicant has all those great uses, I would suggest he go forward without the ABC overlay. But I'd be glad to listen to what you have to say, sir.
Again, for the record, I'm Lieutenant Kimberlin with the Vice Unit. Originally, we were told that the application was going to be for a restaurant, so we went in and checked some records and have some information for you. Just for your reference, this is what it looks like today. The retirement center, I believe there's some people here to talk. They're to the north, so their property borders that north fence line. Then there's 3715, the biggest part of that central part of the building. There's a club located on the far east side called Club Chrome. They're just now trying to get open. And then there's a church down to the southeast within 300 feet of the event center. 3715, it's 18,584 square feet. The last lease we have in our files is dated April of 2012, which requires the leasee to pay $248,400 over 3 years, $6,900 a month. So if you take your basic business math and your lease plus 20%, he's got to come up with about $8,280 per month. So your typical retail food cost per plate right now is about $6 in some of these places that we go to. Not considering or taking into the fact the amount the food's going to cost for him to purchase. If he were to make 100% profit, he would have to have 1,380 servings per month. He only gets about 2.5 hours worth of good food service, which is, again, like I spoke before, they typically try to operate as a bar till 2 o'clock. They secure their bar, and then they stay open for another 2 or 3 hours. So he has about 2.5 hours per week, per day, business day of food service. Right now he operates on Friday and Saturday nights only, which gives you about 20 hours of food service per month. So he's got to come up with 552 servings per hour in order to pay for his rent. So if liquor service is approved, obviously he can supplement that with entry fees to his liquor service until 2 a.m. He can remain open for 24 hours if he chooses to do so as a type 2. This is posted on the front door today. Ladies 21 and up, hours are 10 to 4:30 a.m. He's going to have a DJ. DJ K-Rupp will be there, and the door charge of $5. What concerns me as law enforcement is last week we just had a biker get-together at 5400 North Lincoln, which resulted in a homicide. I do not know if it's the same individuals will show up or not, and again, we can't see in the future, but this is the event that he has currently advertised for this facility. Again, I looked up on his Facebook today. There's no mention of food service at all, no menu posted on the door or on Facebook, and the pictures that they're handing around appear to be the same one that I pulled off today off his Facebook account. Again, when we looked at it this morning, in this last week, we were under the impression he was going to try to open it as a restaurant, and even the inside right now is not set up for a full restaurant. It's set up as an event center or a club or anything but a restaurant. I also went around back today and looked at the back. As you can see, the north side, this is what borders up against the nursing facility or retirement center. This is the back dock. There's some mattresses out. Loading dock is currently unused. There's no evidence of extensive food service. There's no food service pallets that are waiting to be recovered or anything like that. This is another dock on the north side. It's dilapidated in its construction, probably couldn't be used. Ceiling's starting to fall in, and of course there's no evidence of use either. As I stepped back, I looked, and he mentioned the hood in the kitchen. The last owner that operated that as a club, a lady named Gloria Dewberry, closed that in about 2010, late 2010. We went in with the health department. The kitchen stuff was so dilapidated that the health department said they probably wouldn't be able to use it. It was rusty and needed to be brought up into code. So it would be a significant cost for him to equip a kitchen that could serve a significant number of people. I didn't see any new construction on vents that I saw on the ceiling. There is one old vent located on the roof towards the west side that I did see, and I didn't see any vents in the platform area, which is kind of the area that sticks up underneath the lines. The only construction I saw today was people working on the barbershop air conditioners. So just as important as what was in those pictures is what is not in those pictures, and that's a grease bin. Every restaurant owner knows that you got to have a grease recovery bin or a recycle bin in the back because you can't let the grease go down on the grease traps. And most leases actually require that. And there is not one of those back there at all. So it tends to make me believe that, or lead me to believe that he does not have an operating kitchen right now. And if he does, it would be insignificant to the number of people he intends to draw. In comparison to a local food place, that is an extremely large facility. There's only one that I could think of offhand today, and I went by that, Cimarron Steakhouse, located in the 500 block of North Meridian. They're set up similarly. They're about the same size. They have food service, and their liquor service is incidental to their food service. So they do have a bar, but it is incidental to their liquor or to their food. So if you go around and look in the back, again, there's some food pellets that are waiting to recover. We see those quite often. That may be pallets from Coke, it may be pallets from Budweiser, it may be, in this case, milk cartons. But usually there's something waiting for to be recovered by the wholesaler when they come by, and I saw none of that behind 3715 on Spring Lake. Again, there's 2 grease bins in the back, and like I said, that's almost a requirement of every lease. If they were to pour that grease down the drains, it can cause a significant repair, so the property owners tend to not like that. So that's the property itself. This issue has also been before the board, went to the Board of Adjustment. It was denied. The landowner took it to court and litigated it under CJ 3718 Plaza Event Center v. Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment, where the judge did affirm the board's decision. As far as historically on significant police responses, actually we have had none since it's been closed. And since he has been open and operating, we have had no significant police responses since he's been operating. Prior to that, when Ms. Dewberry operated it, we had 3 significant police responses in about the year that she operated. When I say significant, I mean generally significant acts of violence such as ADWs, shootings, stabbings. One of those was where an off-duty officer working security there was stabbed and seriously injured. The other 2 are shootings where shots were fired inside the club. So they were pretty significant. So once she left, she was prosecuted. She kind of left town. Then the current applicant opened it up, and since he's been open, I mean, you're exactly right, sir. We have had no introduction of alcohol, and we have had no significant police responses. So he is operating now without any liquor service, significant liquor service. I mean, we have had no problems. It tends to be the introduction of alcohol in such a large facility that causes a lot of the significant police responses.
Thank you. 2 quick questions. How long have you been operating, and do you have whatever necessary food licenses there are required? Are you serving food today? Come to the microphone, please, so that we can...
We're not open at all. We've just been doing private events, people that want to come and rent out the space. We've just been letting people do, birthday parties. I did my family reunion in there. My band member, my engineer over my music, he's actually trying to build his band together. So we've been trying to do events where we can get bands in there to do auditions to find out what musicians we was going to use. We really haven't been open besides doing the after hours, and we've been having it catered in, and people come and cater some hot dogs, nachos, brisket sandwiches, and such things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Two responses to that. Like he said, they've all been soft openings. They're not officially open. They're soft openings to sort of test and gauge popular support. Regarding the kitchen equipment, as the pictures demonstrate, that has actually been updated, so that would pass inspection by the city. The kitchen was always there. He just came in and updated it. Regarding grease pits and the service of disposal of waste, again, why invest when the future is uncertain? Typically, tenants in these situations will lease a property with the caveat or with a condition that they acquire a license from ABLE or they acquire something. So part of it is enough to convince the council. The rest is hedging your bets against your future investment. So of course, if, in the service of food, the necessary requirements would be in place.
I've been opening up for the after hours, and most of my customers that come in, some of them have had alcohol. They have something to drink. They're leaving other clubs. I got a more responsible group of people who I'm trying to carry up in there. It's a different group. It's not the same group that I've been seeing at the local club next door to me. They got a whole nother group. It's a lot rowdier. I can't explain. They don't leave the lot when you tell them to go home. They'll go next door and continue. This right here group is more of a mature group. They go home when I tell them to go home. I had no fights at all. I haven't even had an argument in my establishment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Lieutenant Kimberlin? Commissioners?
I would like, if you could go back to his first side, I like the location. That one with the arrows. Yeah, okay. All right. Because for me, I think it's fundamental with respect to this application, if I could, using that slide, is that there's a retirement center across the fence. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that how close it is? And then there's a church, admittedly across Spring Lake Drive there. I'm familiar with this area, not as much as James or the others, but I just can't see how we benefit at all, given the proximity with the neighborhood that is revitalizing north down Kelly, I believe, and that close to a retirement center. I think I think it's fortuitous that it lapsed, frankly, from a land use standpoint. So, I know we have several protesters here. For me, I think the evidence is pretty compelling, absent significant additional conversation.
I would like to address the applicant's comments about being open, if I could, quickly. He opened up in about the first week of March, and I know that because I was out with the Able Commission and the Fire Marshal conducting some other investigations in the bars. Some of the bars that we went to are actually griping because the soft opening attracted so many people, they were closing early. So, we're talking about 900 people probably that went to his opening night. And since then, he's had repeated soft openings and had repeated private events that have been advertised as selling tickets to the public, much like this one up here where you have a biker rally where somebody has rented the establishment, but they charge a $5 cover to get in. So as far as our licensing and what we investigate, that's open. If they're open to the public, they're advertising, they're accepting a door charge, they are open.
Okay. One question, sir.
Yes, sir.
If I'm having a private event, I want to serve alcohol at that private event, don't I need to get a permit, city, a one-time permit, some kind, special permit? What are the special permit requirements? That may be a JJ question, I don't know. I know in certain cases you have to have special permits.
I can answer that. There's no municipal, but if you're serving alcohol as a caterer, there's an application to the Able Commission for the service of the bar.
Thank you.
There's not a municipal one that I'm aware of.
Well,
Now, Nick, to answer your question, though, if somebody wants to have a private party and have it catered, and the caterer has an alcoholic beverage license, they can come and serve alcohol in the facility.
But a private event by its nature is exclusive.
Right.
So my wedding reception is exclusive.
Yeah, you don't have cover charge and so.
My invitations versus advertising and charging.
Right.
So as an event center, you don't need an ABC. If you're catering and you're caterer for weddings, family reunions, et cetera, you don't need an ABC in that event. I'm asking, but it seems like for, quote, events, if they're catered.
That's why I raised the issue. I believe the question is whether it's public or private.
Right.
If I'm having a private function, and I hire someone to have it, I don't need all that.
Right.
If I'm having a public function, I'm advertising handbills,
right,
cover charge, event or whatever.
Right.
That's a public function, and
right.
I thought there was a provision that if it was like a one-shot deal, you went down and got a special permit for it.
Sir, the Able Commission has licenses. If you have one event where you're a charity, you may be able to use a caterer. You can get a charity beer license. You can get a charity wine license. Those are only for charities. And then they have a quarterly where you can have one event per calendar quarter, no longer than 10 days in duration. And those are the types of licenses. And then you get into the permanent license. So there are licenses that you would have to have if you want to do that on an ongoing basis.
The problem with that is you get 4 a year. You get 4 events a year, that's the
Right.
That's correct.
And I'm assuming you've had none so far. Thank you.
Major Jennings, did you have something you want to add?
I'll just say one thing.
Come right, that's fair.
My name's Brian Jingham, Major with the Police Department. Spring Lake Division is my command. And I just want to echo what he says. My staff will be the ones responding to these problems out here. All of them give me feedback that prior to this, when they had the alcohol license, there were numerous problems they had to respond to. Typically on a Friday and Saturday night, we have to add additional staffing, stay late, and pay overtime just to respond to the disturbances, the fights, the drunken calls that we respond there. So this would be difficult for us to manage if they did get that license, and would stretch our resources even further.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have quite a number of people signed up, and we have Mr. Shelton as a guest as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a quick comment. Rather than the problem of not having anything he can do with a building like this because it's so large, it seems to me that he has an abundance of things that he can and is doing with the building. He has a lot of different things going on, a lot of different ideas. And while he says that he wants to, give back to the community and develop his ties to the community and develop that relationship, if that, in fact, had been going on, I don't think we would have the number of people that we have here today in protest this application. I agree with Commissioner Gales that the vast majority of things that they've indicated they want to do at the building do not require any alcohol licensing at all. It's hard for me to see how it is a benefit to the community at this point to grant an ABC overlay on this piece of property. He wants to operate as a restaurant. He wants to establish that business. He wants to show that it's not problematic. He wants to use it for events in the way that other restaurants sometimes have events. And have a track record and a history that they can, bring here and show as a benefit to the community and as a good fit. That would be one thing. But not that I wouldn't like to hear from all of you, but I'm just not sure that we need to. I don't see any plus side to this application.
No. I'm assuming that the persons who are primarily located in this side of the room, are there any in support of this application? Okay. I'm thinking no. I'm assuming that most of you are remaining to speak on this particular, except for you, Warren. I know you're not here on this one. I know you've got other stuff, but I think we can move this forward, personally. James?
Well, I chime in. I've heard everything, and I think we're absolutely right, without prolonging it. I think reiterating what Janice had said and what Nikki said, there has been a history, and there has been a history of some things that has occurred that hasn't been conducive to the community. We have the seniors' housing and church, and I just think at this point, bringing that type of alcohol back into that situation would not be a healthy thing at this particular time. If it proves out, again, what Janice said, to prove out to be exactly what his intents are and to give back and run those type of activities. But once you start charging, that goes into a public situation. And so with my opinion, I would let's vote that we deny the ABC on this.
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Will it offend all of you who signed up if we just deny the application and you don't get a chance to speak? Is that okay?
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, we obviously appreciate everyone being here, including Mr. Smith. We have a motion and a second to deny the application. Any further discussion? Cast your votes. It is denied.
These are yours and yours. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item 24 and 25 have been continued. We are on item 26, which is C-6472, the final plat of Raywood Manor Phase 2 in Ward 1.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant, and we are in agreement with the TE's second final plat of Raywood Manor, so we would ask for your approval.
No one has signed up, Commissioners. Kendall, the only comment I'd make is I'd like not to see TE3 in the future.
TE3. So
The amenities information can be in before we see this a second time. This has been on...
Understood. We have supplied the letter.
I know you have.
Not in time for December.
I'd like to see it done before the reports go out.
Okay. I did, didn't I?
Move approval of the application.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the application. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
You want to throw a party for the opening of that, Kendall? You want to have a party for the opening of that? All right.
$5 cover charge.
Item 27 has been continued. Item 28 is C-6495, a final plat of Valencia Park Addition, Section 14 in Ward 8.
Will Marcuson, SMC Consulting Engineer here for the applicant. This is the 14th section of Valencia. We agree with all the TEs, and we are asking for a variance on TE3, I believe it was, to install an emergency access road, temporary, to have emergency access road.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
I move the variance on TE number 3.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes.
And I move the application. Approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 28. Cast your votes, and it is approved.
Item 29 is C-6497, final plat of Chandler's Crossing in Ward 4.
Warren Peacock with WPM Design Group, representing the applicant. This is just the identical to the preliminary plat that was approved. We've complied with everything that we agreed to do in the preliminary plat stage. I did agree with the staff. We are going to provide indoor sprinkler systems for the houses, which was one of the things that I believe I failed to address, but I have agreed that we will do that. So we agree with the TEs and would ask for approval.
No one signed up?
I've got a question maybe for JJ. I think I know, well, I do know the answer to it, but JJ, is the property to the due southwest and west of the property, is that all proposed for commercial zoning?
Post Road and the intersection of the highway is designated as an activity node in the comp plan and southeast sector plan. So yes, a certain distance around that intersection is designated for commercial. The area south of I-40 on each side of Post Road, north of 44th, is designated industrial.
On the southeast sector plan, is that area that I spoke of, is that set aside for commercial?
The intersection is a commercial node, so there's any kind of combination of industrial, commercial could go around that intersection and up Post Road.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make that clear with the applicant, and that there is the possibility that
That's a commercial development to the west of us?
West and south. I think one of these days we'll see possibly Douglas closed and Post Road opened. And I think even when Tony's on the west side of Post was rezoned, that's one of the things we looked at was the a ramp to I-40 from Post Road to make sure we had enough room for that.
Access. Well, actually, if the commercial is the right kind of commercial development, it could evenly enhance, actually make that more attractive for homeowners if it's done properly, obviously.
Right. Okay. I don't have any other questions, and if there's not any protests, I'll recommend approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 29. Cast your votes, and you're approved.
Thank you.
That concludes the public hearing items.
Item 7.
Oh, yeah, we need to go back. Nobody here. Carlin Group rezone.
Want to continue it? Move to continue it.
I'll take a motion to continue item 7 to our August meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve or continue item 7.
JJ.
What?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. This is an application that was really brought forward by staff. These duplexes are there. They've been built already. They're existing. They were permitted as duplexes, but they're actually all in one complex, and the zoning is for duplex, but it needs to be multifamily. So it's really a cleanup application.
No TEs on it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, JJ, if it was duplexes, why were we going for R4?
They're already there.
Yeah.
They were permitted incorrectly. so
All together, they
we're just trying to
they
clean
were
it up.
permitted not individually?
Right. They're permitted as individual duplexes, but they're really multifamily because they're not on individual lots.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So where were you at the beginning of the meeting when we could have heard it in order?
Where was applicant?
Now, somebody made a motion and a second that needs to be withdrawn.
The motion
Who
for
did that?
continuance needs to be withdrawn. I don't know that we made it. We suggested it.
Oh, I heard somebody make a motion and a second, didn't I, or not?
Yeah, well, you did.
That's what I thought.
Okay, then
I rescind my second. Now I'll move approval. Second.
Okay. Motion and second to approve item 7. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Okay.
You guys are a tough crowd. Planning Commission committees? Planning Commission members?
I have a couple of things. I wanted to make you all aware and thank Commissioner Williams for coming to the town hall meeting that we had on the Western Avenue streetscape. And you'll be seeing that as it creeps forward, I'm sure. It was a good turnout. I was very pleased with the number of people who were there and who were able to give their input about the streetscape itself. It's going to be kind of an incorporation of the placemaking concepts that we heard about down at the Institute at OU, and it'll be interesting to see it sort of as an experiment and to see what it does for the area, both businesses and adjoining neighborhoods. And I wanted to make you aware also that there is another little effort along those same lines going on 39th Street west of Pennsylvania. We've had several meetings there. The business owners and neighborhoods are trying to bite the bullet and get organized enough to interact more formally with the city and creep forward with a kind of a district development there as well, which I think will happen, and it's probably happening about as fast as it can. And then I wanted to just raise an issue with respect to the process of permitting that succeeds SPDs and PDs, and something's happened recently in Ward 2 that's given me some concerns and really more questions, I guess, than anything else, just about how that process works, what it is that they look at when people come in for building permits or construction permits or whatever it is they're getting on a piece of property that is covered by an SPD or PUD, how much actual review there is of those documents, and how that process works to try to match up what's being proposed to be built versus what's been approved. So I think we're going to be looking at that a little bit more carefully and trying to figure out how it works and whether it needs to work better and so on.
Nick?
Mr. Chairman, we've continued item 34, the PUD ordinance. But looking through it, I noticed two things that are not in there that I would encourage be reconsidered. That would be how density on PUD is calculated, and eliminate from that calculation anything in floodplains and other undevelopable areas, and some type of a sunset.
Well, I had the first note in my notes, and one of the reasons we're continuing it is I came up, as I I apparently missed the study session when it was considered last time, and so I came in with a bunch of comments after getting my packet. So I've asked that it be continued. We'll have to have an urban design committee meeting to go over some of those issues. Your first one was certainly on my list. The Sunset one was one I dealt with Mayor Humphreys on years ago, and I certainly agree with you that if we can do that, we should. We had other comments as well, so we will revisit it.
I know there's some opposition to that, but the arguments against it, citing what they do in Edmond, really aren't valid, and because it can be done another way, and that's what I would like to talk about.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad we continued it then. Any other discussion, commissioners? Planning Department?
On that same subject, we'll have a session on that in September. We were supposed to have a study session today, and I believe that will be in August, but we'll have another one when we meet in September. We'll look at that, and then we've had comments provided to us from representatives of the development community that have a number of items they want to discuss. Primarily, it seems to me, unrelated to the actual content of the ordinance, so I think we'll separate. What I intend to do is separate those two items for discussion. So we'll talk about the ordinance as crafted and as we might like to modify, and then all those other things we'll discuss separately, because I don't want those impinging on the core content purpose of the PUD ordinance.
Development Services? Municipal Counselor? Anybody else? Motion to adjourn.
Move.
You got my